Thank you for joining us for another episode of the UNspecial Podcast. We are a space for parents to come be heard, supported, equipped, and inspired. We're not here to give you the latest therapies, behavior modifications. We are simply here for you. We believe in community, and our hope, our goal, is for all parents to be in community with one another. Today on the show, we have Joe and Holly Sabel to give us some amazing insights into the life of a special needs journey with their child. All right, on the show today, we have Joe and Holly Sabel, married couple in Wisconsin. Super excited to have them on the show today. I know Joe through Rise Up Kings, a life group, personal development, business coaching group we're in, and I've heard a little bit about their story, but I'm excited to get into it today. A little background on myself. I taught special ed for 5 years in a special moderate to severe classroom. Before teaching, I was in the classroom for 2 years as a instructional aide, paraeducator. I don't know what they call it in your parts. Same thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So during when I was the aide, I was getting my credential and master's in special education. Got that, taught for 5 years. I loved it. Always knew I wanted to stay in special education, but when we moved to Idaho, I had to step away. Unfortunately, they don't pay teachers anything up there, but I always knew I would come back. I just, I don't know, I feel like this is the gifting God's given me, and I just enjoy specifically my classes with autism and the behaviors. I always was given the violent classrooms, and for some reason, I just thrived. I mean, just the thought of like 7, 8 different kids in one classroom with multiple behaviors, trying to navigate, not setting one off and the other goes off, and the structure and my OCD was just on point as I was able to manage those classes. But you two are an amazing couple, from what I know, and always goes back to my IEP meetings. This is kind of how this all came about. From multiple IEP meetings, talking with parents, the message that, from my perception, that you guys always got was everything about your child, and all the latest therapies, behavior modifications, services, and so forth. And I would always talk with the parents after these meetings and ask them how they were doing, and it was always a super emotional conversation. And they were just in the trenches. And then I always thought, like, there's nothing for parents. And I couldn't even find a space for them to speak and be heard and communicate their journey and their story. And so that's kind of the inspiration of UNspecial. And yes, super stoked to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Zack. Appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah. Awesome. And a little preview, in a couple months, I'm going to have a book coming out. I've been writing it for like 10 years, off and on. It's only 10 chapters. It's 10 stories from teaching. And then I relate it to the Bible and Jesus, and how every day can be special with God in it, especially with special needs children. Kind of a different mindset shift and perspective, which I want to get into that a little bit with you guys. I know we've had a lot of mindset training, Joe and I.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, tell me, right. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you? Yeah.
So I'll start. I guess I'm Joe Sabel. My wife Holly. We have 6 kids actually, and we live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Our 6 kids are kind of broken up, we'll say. So they call the first family, as they affectionately call themselves, are my what is she, 28 now? Almost 28?
December 5th.
Wow, she's almost 20. Yeah, 20, almost 28-year-old daughter who just got married a month ago, who's hosting Thanksgiving. So at the time of this recording, we're excited about that. So we don't have to host; we just show up. We're really stoked about that. So when that season comes for you, Zack, I'm telling you, that's great.
It's a long ways away.
And then we have a almost 26-year-old son, Matt, and a 21-year-old son, Charlie, both of which who have gone through Rise Up Kings as well. They went through Crucible almost 2 years ago. And then my new son-in-law actually just got back from Awakening last week. So he's fresh out of Rise Up Kings. So I'm really proud of all those guys for, the just the initiative and the intentionality that they've given. And my new son-in-law too is just really on fire. He got baptized down there. So really cool stuff. So that's the first family. And then go ahead.
They affectionately call themselves the first family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that did you say that?
I did. That's right.
Okay.
But then we have an 11-year-old daughter, Cameron, and then a twins, Landon. Wow, that's my son-in-law, Landon and Liam. And Liam is the one that's on the autism spectrum. And they are 6. I didn't mention that.
6. Wow. Okay. I know you all, before we get into all that, I know you all have various hobbies, and it's possible to have hobbies even going through this journey. I know, Joe, you just ran a marathon, which is pretty intense. And I always joke.
I did.
Holly, I joked with Joe a couple weeks ago that the next RuckCon, I'm going to beat him in the, what do they even call it? Spartan King, or it's fitness challenge.
Yeah, the new fitness thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, well, you got your jiu-jitsu stuff down, so man, dude, I don't want to mess around with that stuff. So I'd like to learn that stuff, but I'm not messing with you on that.
Yeah.
Are you like?
Yeah.
How? You've got to be like a lot younger than Joe.
Oh.
So you might have that on him.
I was born in the late 80s.
Oh yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have 6-year-old twins. Curious. Take me back to the early days. So you're pregnant with twins. Obviously, autism, you don't start seeing signs until, I mean, they say 2. From your perspective, I'm sure you have some different thoughts on that. Kind of walk me through that whole process.
Obviously I didn't know while I was pregnant, but now having this vantage point going back, I see all the things I did wrong. I'll tell you that much. Because I was 40 years old, I was given all of the, I don't know, I was marked as like what do they call it? An elderly maternal age or whatever. And so they treated me really like the pregnancy, first of all, high risk. And then just the amount of ultrasounds that were given to us were just a ton. And so I guess what my perspective now is like, I would have done so much different, but I can't go back and change anything. Right. So, but our first, Liam was 2.5, and his preschool teacher had texted me a video of him sleeping, and he was having seizures in his sleep, and which was super alarming. I had not known, and most parents don't watch their kids sleep unless they have like a video camera, and unless they're crying, they usually don't look at it, right? So it was a blessing in disguise. He was taking a nap, and we had a video, and from there it kind of started this, doctor visits, and then recommendations to see a neurologist, and then his first diagnosis was done by WEEP, it's called in Wisconsin. It's what is the
Wisconsin Early Autism Project?
Yes. And so we took Liam there, and he was officially diagnosed with autism at 2.5. And then following, I want to say that was December of
2020.
2020, and then the following April was diagnosed with epilepsy. So
right in the middle of COVID, so you can imagine the fun that was going on at the same, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it was the first week after he was diagnosed with autism. I had my week-long cry fest, and then immediately after 7 days, I was like, you just pull your bootstraps up and you get going, like boots to the ground. I was just all in on studying about it, studying what caused it. I just went all in, and I came out with a lot of resources. My mom in particular was huge on the diet, and she introduced me to Natasha Campbell McBride, who is a neurologist, I think a pediatric neurologist. And because her son was diagnosed with autism, she had created the GAPS diet, and I kind of implemented that from the get-go. Not perfectly, but I had to learn all the things while like we were going through it. So
yeah, Zach, she just dove right in. She was inspiring, to say the least, for how difficult. I don't know how much you know about the GAPS diet. It's not an easy thing. The amount of cooking and what you cook and what you're buying, very, very difficult. And then you have other children at the same time who, we all kind of almost have to dive into the same diet, and that's that can pose other sorts of challenges with them as well. But yeah, she just did tremendous and was wow. Just even to this day, I'm still blown away by it.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of parents go through somewhat of a denial period, and they don't really want to accept that this is the reality. I know when I was teaching middle school, it seemed like middle school was a very difficult age with parents. It kind of seemed like it was like the breaking point. It was like either they're going to snap out of this or this is the reality. And speaking with those parents, it was real difficult because I was supposed to be the savior, and I had a lot of pressure on me to like fix what was going on. And that's kind of when I had a mindset shift, like, well, it doesn't, as hard as it is. I mean, I was just a teacher. I had my students for 6 hours a day. I would go home. So I always admire the parents because you guys are the true rock stars in all of it. It seems like your period, you only had a week and then you just got to work. That's just kind of who you are, or how would you? What would you
it's
say
funny
to parents that don't?
I mean, honestly, I think as a parent, you do anything for your kids. And, like if I've struggled with depression, but have never in my lifetime taken the initiative to work this hard to some sort of cure or help for someone, like it's just your kids, the love for your kids that really kind of ignites that, I don't know, the strength and determination to just figure things out. I guess there is a little bit of a denial and a little bit of like, no, I'm going to cure him too, totally. And and through time, I have had to accept, the I don't know, the quirkiness and some of the things, but he is such a gift, and we're learning to accept those little differences too. And having his twin brother alongside has always given me like a gauge of where they are where he is developmentally. Landon's neurotypical, so I don't know. It's been definitely a long journey, but I feel like I'm relaxing a bit now that they're 6.
Yeah. How was it family, like the acceptance with family when you have family gatherings or you go to a friend's house, and what's that vibe like?
You know, yeah, in the beginning, there was a lot of not accepting that diagnosis, especially with an in particular person who was a teacher and saying, early diagnosis it's too early. Putting a label on a child will, hurt them. Got a lot of that message. And, I don't think people understand quite the level of, I don't know, like what we went through with Liam. We had no idea he was having seizures. So he was literally, his brain probably really hurt. And, every time I pulled away from his preschool, he would cry. And I had no idea like why he would have a hard time transitioning and all this stuff. But people can make a judgment like, oh, he doesn't seem autistic. He laughs and he does all these things. But when you, day-to-day life, when he's crying over things that his brother isn't, and kind of comparative, we had that comparison right off the bat. So plus we have 6 children, and which we're like, that should be some sort of template, So
Yeah.
I don't know but it was something else to go through, and we're still going through it.
Yeah.
Still
Right.
we're having to adjust care right now. Our Wisconsin laws, because he was diagnosed with epilepsy and autism, he automatically gets not automatically, we had to sign up for, it's called the Katie Beckett Foundation in Wisconsin. And we're able to receive like healthcare through this Katie Beckett Foundation. And right now, because we're home or owners of a business, we only have like catastrophic insurance. So we're relying on this Katie Beckett Foundation to provide for him. And just recently we found out that they don't, they like stop care for, he was in the ABA program, Denver model program with a Treffert Society here in Wisconsin. And they are canceling all of his care because he turned 6 and they want him to be in a public school. So we're having to shift gears now and create an IEP through the school district and kind of see how we can navigate this while he's attending a private school. So it's kind of
it's always changing.
Yeah, so we're in the midst of that.
Yeah, what's the relationship between the brothers? Are they buddies?
It's actually really good. Landon is baby A. Liam is baby B. But he is Liam's protector, even though he's smaller, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always been protecting him in school, helping him put on his shoes or tying a shoelace or buttoning his shirt,
Brushing his teeth.
Yeah, wow. He's just always been that buddy of his, and which we're so grateful for. And I mean, who would have known, like, if you're going to be autistic and then have this bud right next to you, helping you along, with these little cues. I mean, God planned that for me, because I probably would have had to be that other person alongside him. So, yeah.
Right. You hit on a little bit. Is it finding the services in the school? What challenges are there? Is it just a lot of research, finding what you want exactly for them? How are the services out there? Because I know,
so he's
some. I can think of a parent right now that they're kind of in that denial phase, and so they don't want to come to terms with this is what's going on. And
Mhm.
on the other side of it, there are tons of services and helpful programs for the child. And if you wait, like you guys have done an incredible job getting on it so early, because there
Mhm.
is a lot of success stories of diet and getting them the programs and services they need for future success. Has that been easy to find?
Well, there's resources in Wisconsin, but it's one thing to be involved in them, and then another to like, well, you just find out what these services, how good they are, I guess. And our first experience with our first service was WEEP, and I feel bad for even calling them out, but um, they have trained technicians who go out to homes. Well, at this time there was COVID going on, so you had to have a mask. I mean, all the things were all different. We couldn't go into their clinic and get services. It was all house based.
Mhm.
And I don't know, the psychologist, I forgot the names of the lead team. And then there's like a second lead, and then there's technicians that go under them. And the technicians would show up to our house, and sometimes these technicians wouldn't know what ABA therapy was. And so we were basically handing over Liam to a babysitter, a glorified babysitter. And so we saw not a lot of improvement. There was one technician who was amazing. She had her teaching degree, so she really kind of knew how to implement the ABA therapy. Um, but she was leaving, and so then we found ourselves like, okay, we need to find something else. Um, so then thank God, through a childhood friend, they led us to the Treffert place in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, who do an ABA therapy, but it's a Denver model. And that is more of a specific type of ABA therapy that emphasizes child or like play-based therapy. It's more of a child-led ABA therapy, focusing on heavily on social interactions, where like the ABA therapy, that's more of an instructor based therapist. It's like directed more by them versus the child. So and I heard of the Denver model through a book I read by Jody Meshach. She's a Colorado based mom who wrote a book called Autism Reimagined. And she kind of notes in there specifically that the Denver model is the best model for autistic kids. So
Wow.
for ABA therapy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So,
And
so then,
ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. For the listeners who aren't
yeah.
too sure, it's a
Yeah.
behavior therapy, whatever you want to call it. It just
Mm-hmm.
it helps with behaviors, but there's like two sides of it, like you're
Yeah.
saying. Like there's the textbook side, and then you have the implementation side, which is what I've saw
Mm-hmm.
too. It is where the ball drops. For what as a teacher in the classroom, we were trained on all this. My first 2 years teaching was in an autism program, high school. It was very violent, like every day. I think the first month I had staff go to the ER multiple times. And that was
Mm-hmm.
my first year teaching. I pretty much got hired on the spot because they're like, "Oh, you're a male? You like you want to be a special ed?" Or they're like, "Why should I hire you?" I'm like, "Oh, you're never gonna hear from me." That was fail the first day. The chair went out the window. Uh, but yeah, that was big in there. But oh yeah, so the implementation, because I had multiple staff and everyone was well-meaning and big hearts, but it kind of like what you guys have, obviously as the parents, it takes like an intuitive mindset to be like in with the kids and really get to know them for who they are. I always had a little bit of a challenge with ABA because the textbook side of it was like they're a project and you just do what
Yeah,
this says
that's
and then they're going to get,
mhm.
it's going to help them. But it really took like what is really going on, seeing the person as a whole and not a project.
I agree. Yeah, I really, when I saw them working on it, it just seemed so exactly that, like textbook kind of structure. And Liam, I saw him kind of reacting more of an anxious level towards some of the, they're wanting an answer for certain things, and he's having to perform, and it just created a lot of anxiety in him, I noticed too. So having a child-led based therapy versus instructor led made, I think, all the difference for him, So, but
So
yeah,
you guys are,
we did. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
We just talking about therapies that really was one of the approaches. He is in speech therapy and has continued since 2.5. We just started an IEP, or we're getting him evaluated to get an IEP started through the public school system. But there's other, like the diet was huge for him. We at 2.5 found out, and then within the next couple of months, I took away milk and gluten and sugar, basically, and he started to talk. And so
Whoa.
the teachers were like, whatever you're doing, do it.
Wow.
Keep doing it. And so it's been a long journey with the diet, because like most parents know, like it's a struggle. We're inundated with sugar everywhere, and every holiday has focused around food and everything. But we were able to get him on this diet for, I would say, 3 years pretty solidly. So with his epilepsy, having those like autism and epilepsy side by side, the diet was even more important, just because epilepsy is, I had read like years ago, like not years ago, but like I had read that the ketogenic diet had helped epilepsy patients like 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really my basis of both epilepsy and autism. Like it's got to be able to change something, and it sure did. He started having like 8 to 10 seizures at night, and then he was medicated by the doctor, and I was just very devoted to, and I just totally believed in the whole diet approach. And after 2 years of being on the ketogenic diet, he was removed off of all medications.
Yeah.
Wow.
He hasn't had a seizure in 2 years. So I'm a big proponent of diet change.
Yeah, big time. Zach, and she, like I said earlier, you should see in the mornings before school what she's making for lunches and it's not just for Liam, it's for all three of them. I tease her sometimes. I'll come back. I work out in the morning, as you know. I'll come back from the gym, and she's got like a 5-course meal going out, minus the desserts and stuff. But it's at 6 in the morning, and she's slaving away in the stove in the kitchen, and just making. It's incredible. I mean, I tease her. I said, there is no one doing this, no mother doing this now.
There really are, though.
So,
well, I mean, that's definitely going to be inspiration for a lot. So you're navigating the IEP scene now. IEP's individual education plan for every student diagnosed with special needs, and every special educator. It's a meeting once a year for the listeners, and there's a lot of emotions in these meetings. They can be very daunting, with all the specialists in the room, OT, physical therapist, behavior specialist. And then on the extreme scale, I was in a handful with lawyers, from the parents, from the school district, cameras, everything's recorded. How has that process been going?
Well, I'm not I have my one of my children had an IEP, so I'm familiar with the process.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie, my 21-year-old, had ADD, and so he was getting some early help, interventions for some, I think, math and reading. And but I can see how that could be intimidating, although I never was really. I just was very much, all ears, listening to any kind of, specialist or whatever. And in Charlie's situation, I feel like ultimately it helped him having an IEP. And then with Liam, we're just in the beginning phases we actually haven't even met yet, and he hasn't even been tested. We're very excited to see like what they have to say.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very very early on right now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
What is it? What is it you
Go ahead.
hope to see in them? Because a lot of the ones I was in, the parents didn't. There was so many people in the room, and it always felt like the parents didn't really have their voice, and there wasn't time for them to like actually articulate what they want and need out of that meeting. And then a lot of the times that they would leave helpless, because it was kind of like that everyone would come in and tell them everything that they were seeing with the child, and it was kind of like a negative atmosphere. And I always tried, because I was the case manager, so I was in charge of the meeting, try and like bring this most positivity as possible. But I'm sure it's gonna be difficult to hear all that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I feel like there is a sense of like, here's what we're gonna do, and everything's kind of pushed on you a little bit. But then again, like, I have no idea what else to do for him, so I was open to it, and I felt like they're the specialists. At the same time, I mean, there is a part of you that's like, you wish you could help your child like on your own, like that's where they're going to receive the most love, and but you're kind of at the whim of special education, and some sort of sense of so
Yeah.
otherwise, I mean, I'm excited to get him tested to see where he's truly at, like cognitively, and see what they could do. I after COVID and all the stuff that's going on in our public school systems, I appreciate the fact that they have therapies and stuff. They provide things, but at the same time, I'm not sure I necessarily want him to go to a public school. So just because of the political atmosphere and some of the things that are going on, our school district in particular doesn't have a really great reputation. So, the thought of like selling our house and moving into a different district that's a little bit better with special needs kids has been on her mind a little bit. And I think that there's some school districts that are better than others. And it's just kind of the way it is. And you kind of have to navigate those problems. And for me, for Liam right now, he's in Christian and Montessori school, and
Oh, cool.
I often wonder too, is he getting the best he needs there? So it's not, there's not a perfect thing out there for a special needs child. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's just,
switch gears a little bit. I know you all, I mean, you do so much. So how do you navigate like balancing life? I know, Joe, you just recently acquired a business. You still work out, you're healthy. How do you do it?
Well, I would say it's a team. We're a team. We got to rely on each other, and that's key. And I wish I could say it's been perfect. Of course, we have our challenges on that front and disagreements and so forth. But generally, we're both super committed to making sure, our Liam and our other kids too are being in the best scenario that they can thrive in and so forth. So, and from Rock, from Rise Up Kings, there's people say that there's no time. Well, there's time. You can get your stuff in. So, it's for me getting up at 4 a.m. as often as I can and, getting in on my priorities of getting in the Word to start my day, and then in prayer, and then getting a workout in, because I know I'm going to be that much better of a person the rest of the day for my wife, for my kids, for myself, and for my business. And by the way, our business, it's ours. Holly is actually technically president. So I said, so we're in this together. We're actually right here in our warehouse. That's the backdrop it's not a real sexy area that we're in. We're just in a warehouse. So it's,
I'm in an RV.
Yeah, there you go. So we do what we got to do. It's been tough. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there's been moments of we're just tired, not sleeping well or whatever, And, it is important though in those circumstances that you're getting something in for yourself, whether it be a workout, whether it, something to recharge yourself or what. It definitely is important. But communication, I think, is probably key, making sure we're, sacrificing certain things for each other and so forth. So,
yeah, it's a big emphasis on self-care. I know that's hard for any parent. Take care of themselves, because obviously your heart is always for the kids and making sure they're well, and it's pretty easy to overlook yourself. I'm like you, Joe. I get up at 3:49 so I can get to the gym by 5, and it's especially right now. It's a non-negotiable for me. I need 5 to 6 for me to work out, and it just kind of resets my mind and clears it all up. How long you all been married?
June of 97. So yeah, 27 years. Yeah.
Wow.
We were high school sweethearts. Yeah. So.
Wow. I know divorce rates in general are like, I don't know, 50, 60%. And I saw a stat the other day, a divorce rate with families that have special needs children is up to 87%. How do you guys keep it going?
I'll start if you don't mind. I wish I could say throughout this whole process, when we found out, right in the middle of COVID, I was the perfect husband and perfect father and so forth. But I was under a high pressure job, the economy tanked. And so instead of turning to, my wife and God more, first and foremost, I really upped my drinking quite a bit. So a lot, just ridiculous. And I was just on my way to, I was destroying our marriage myself by that. And just you talked about it earlier, being in denial of, the diagnosis and whatever, I just was putting my head in the sand, and I've got pressures. I got to deal with this and that. So, COVID, blah, blah, blah. that's all the excuses I kept telling myself. Then I really, took went. Yeah, I was just out pure alcoholic, just to sum it up. And so, if that would have continued, I have no doubt we'd be divorced at this point, and completely justifiably so. But no, I've been sober now since September of 23. Yeah, or 22. Yeah, it's over 2 years now. And then I was not a coincidence, I believe. Within 2 months after that, I found rock and was down. Yeah, 2 years ago this month, was down for refinery, and all that just boom, eye opener. Hey, get your crap together and let's go, and so forth. So, yeah, so I'm very, very thankful, that we're not but definitely could have easily been down that path through just actions of that. So I would say to anybody else is, look, it's not an easy thing to hear. Yes, it's not, but when you hear it, don't turn yourself to God, turn towards him. Don't turn away from him like I did. And when you're turning towards him, leaning in on him, surrendering to him, and trusting in him, the relationships with your wife, with your special needs child, all of that's going to just come together. And that's what I've been finding lately. It's not perfect. I still mess up, of course. We're humans, but I'm totally in complete trust and surrender to God right now, and know, Liam is with us for a reason, and he is here. He's going to be something special for somebody, to impact. I don't know what he's going to be or what, but he's going to do something special. I know God's got him on a path, and I can't wait to see what that path ends up for him.
Yeah. So faith played a big part in it. Holly, what was it like for you? Because kind of at the timing of all that, Joe was going this way, and you were going all in for Liam. So the disconnect.
Yeah, there was a lot of disconnect in our family, in our relationship, just our family life, and a disconnect from God. And I think that's like the focal point. If you look back to us 10 years prior, we kind of we're just going through a spiritual, like, I don't know, we poo-pooed the church around our local, around Green Bay, and we're like, oh, this is just a business. And, I don't know, our hearts were really hardened. And then fast forward to his diagnosis, I kind of, we were both in the same boat. In fact, when he got his job, we kind of thought that we had, like gotten the world kind of thing. Like it was a good paying job. He's, high executive in the company. And so we thought we were riding high, but really we were so empty. And with that diagnosis kind of being, it kind of ignited in me something, to work towards or whatever. But so that's what I really focused on for 2 to 3 years, really. In my head was all in. But so after Rock, and that's when everything started to change, spiritually for our family, because when you have a leader in the household leading your family towards God, that makes the biggest difference, to the health of and spirituality of your family. So I can't thank Ruck enough for doing that for my family. I'd prayed for Joe to like be that spiritual leader for so many years and kind of gave up for a while. And so then when it finally came, I'm like, wow, it's happening. And it's really just, it's just helped us so much, leading the kids. And I got baptized last year.
This year, Easter.
Easter. That
Yeah.
I was thinking of everything in school years. So I think, so yeah, there's a new.
And I baptized her, Zach. And it
Man.
was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was in front of church. It was, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
incredible.
there were, yeah. I think if you were to ask, like how we stay together, that is it. How we stay together is just through our faith, and that's what saved us, really, our marriage, because our marriage was really on the brink before before his diagnosis. So
Well, it's a true
yeah.
testament too of common phrase Joe and I hear a lot is life happens for you, not to you. And just the only way to make light of it all is when God's in the middle, and that's really all you can lean to. And it's just everything, not that it's your life is perfect with God in it. It just brings such better perspective and mindset. What were some of the mindset challenges you had that you've kind of shifted to get to the place that you're at?
A lot of blame, a lot of, just blame, or why is this happening to me? What was me? This is not fair. I should have done this. I should have done that, all that type of stuff. But, well, some of that matters and we learned from it. We've, it's not healthy to sit there and point the finger, whether it's at each other, whether it's at yourself, whatever it may be. It is, I hate to use the cliches saying, but it is what it is. God's got us going through this for a reason, and we need to, just navigate the waters that are in front of us. He's got us on this path, and praise him, glorify him, thank him, and surrender to him is really, the biggest mindset shift for me. Is I'm in complete trust that God's got us on this path for a reason, and Liam is going to have like I said earlier, he's going to impact something or somewhere. I don't know what that is, but he's going to do something cool.
Yeah, that's what I love about being around autism, whatever it is. I can't think of anybody who is not blessed when they're around special needs. And they're so funny. They do crazy things. They have no filter most of the time. And it seems like they just bring humor to everywhere they go. And that's what drew me in. That's amazing. We'll wrap it up. Final question for you. I'm sure you went through a little bit of a thought process of you weren't equipped for this, in a sense. You weren't ready for this, and kind of navigating those waters. I heard on I think it was one of our masterminds, maybe it was one of the Rise Up King podcast, that God doesn't equip the called. He calls he calls the equipped. No, how does it go?
But you think
God
you said it right first.
He
doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. So at a certain level, it's just like, all right, here we are. And like you said, is surrender. I'm sure there's a ton of parents out there that are feeling very discouraged. Like, I can't handle this. What would you say to any other parent going through the same journey with you?
Hard one, because I for one, I had those conversations with God. Why are you doing this? And I totally get it. The feeling of like just uncharted territory for an individual. You're really, when you get the diagnosis, it's like you feel like you're swimming, the water. I don't know. It's just like at all odds. It's just all things are against you at that point. But if I were to say anything to a parent, I just would say, your gut instinct for your child is something to follow. I had no idea how many people were in the same boat as me. And that comfort of just knowing there's so many people and
you're not alone.
We're not alone. I just highly would recommend the research of the diet. And resources I felt like got me through. The Children's Health Defense that RFK runs is a huge proponent of autism. The movie Vaxxed and Vaxxed is a great resource. Jody Meshach, her book, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, those kind of resources of people who have gone through the same thing. Their stories have uplifted me. And when you hear these stories of parents going through the same thing and what they did for their children, I think that really is comforting.
Another one too is Brian Hansen, who, he's been on our Ruck calls a few times. I spoke at RuckCon, has a number of books out, phenomenal author, has a podcast out as well, but he's on the autism spectrum. And he is, it is such a pleasure to listen to his perspective, such a godly perspective. He's given me so much hope for Liam. Just listening to him and reading his materials as well.
One other resource too is the Autism One conference. And I had gone to that like 2 years ago in Arizona. And it's a conference where integrative functional medicine and regular doctors meet together and teach you things about autism and how you can approach that diagnosis. And that was also a huge help for me. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. We could have a whole nother conversation on the Vaxxed and all that stuff. So maybe I'll have you guys back on.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because I could go on about that for a long time. But super stoked to have you on. You guys are amazing. You're defying the odds, not only staying married, but you also work together, which that doesn't work too well in most marriages. So,
he's president. I just do what I'm told, Zach. Nope.
That's usually the best arrangement.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Zach. This is awesome. We appreciate it much.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
I'll make sure to send you the book when it comes out. Right. And we'll stay in touch. I'll see Joe on the battleground.
Oh, yeah.
Of RuckCon.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thanks again.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for another episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to be on the show, you can find us on UNspecialLLC.com and on Instagram, UNspecialLLC.